So, herzlich
Ja,
willkommen zu einer neuen Folge JazzrockTV Live.
ja, ich hoffe,
Heute
es wird
am
eine coole Folge.
Donnerstagabend wieder.
Eine coole Folge in warmem Wetter.
Boah, ich
Also
bin
muss
hier,
es halt hier so.
ich bin hier schon
Ja,
wieder
herrlich.
am Schwitzen hier. Ich glaube, das ist das dritte Shirt, was ich heute angezogen habe.
Ja, bei mir ist das zweite. Ich bin kurz in den Regenguss gekommen und danach habe ich noch Einkäufe geschleppt und dann war ich klitschnass vom Regen und vom Schweiß. Ja.
Ja,
Aber jetzt geht es mir wieder gut. Ich wollte eigentlich noch geduscht haben für euch, aber habe ich nicht mehr geschafft. Ähm, Du, gestern hatten wir noch diesen kleinen Soundcheck mit unserem Gast, den wir heute haben.
ja,
Und danach habe ich Chicoria Academy, wo ich ja Mitglied bin, ne? Ich
ja,
mache
ich
mal
weiß.
kleine Werbung, habe ich weitergehört und dann kam da als erster Satz, ich hatte die gestoppt, als ich eingeschlafen war bei der Live-Übertragung. Und dann kam als nächster, here's a question from Ralph Schmitz.
Ach komm, hör auf.
Ja, hat der Chick versucht, meine Frage zu beantworten.
Hat er die
Ja,
Frage
die
richtig
Frage,
verstanden?
ich glaube ja, ich habe es auf Englisch so gut formuliert, wie ich konnte. Es ging wohl einigermaßen. Ja, er hat es verstanden. Er singt immer beim Üben, singt er so die Melodien, die er spielt. Und ich wollte mal wissen, ob er die Melodie quasi vorher im Kopf hat oder ob er die so. Ne?
Ja,
Und er sagt, ja, das ist wie mit dem Chicken und dem Egg. Ne? Also,
also,
was war zuerst? Ist also so eine intuitive Sache. Hatte ich mir schon gedacht, aber ich wollte irgendwie mal eine
ja.
Frage reinhauen. Mir fiel nichts Besseres ein.
Ja, aber gut, bist direkt durchgekommen. Ist so wie bei uns, wenn man bei uns bei der
Ja,
Verlosung mitmacht. Da gab es nur 3 Leute, die sich
du
getraut
willst,
haben, eine Frage zu stellen oder was.
ja, alle gewinnen immer etwas.
Wer eine Antwort kriegt, hat gewonnen.
Ja, 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 ja. Hör mal, wir treiben uns ja ab und zu ein bisschen rum, in letzter Zeit natürlich weniger aufgrund der Pandemie, aber
Ja,
wir waren vor einiger Zeit mal in Berlin im
Jahren.
A-Train.
Jahren,
Vor
oder?
Jahren, ja.
Ich weiß gar nicht, wann das
Wollten uns
war.
jetzt nicht so alt machen.
Das
Und
stimmt. Was haben wir denn aufgenommen? Wir haben aufgenommen Dave Weckel, ne, glaube ich.
Dave Wackel, George Whitty,
Ja,
Dean
genau, die
Brown war dabei
Nomads.
und
Listening Donkey.
Chris Mindoki, genau.
ja, ja, und vor der Türe haben wir den jungen Mann getroffen, den ihr gerade schon kurz gesehen habt, weil er kurz geschnitten war. Und zwar den lieben Yuval Ron, der in Berlin lebt und dort ganz fantastische Musik macht. Hallo Yuval,
Hi,
wie geht's dir in Berlin?
mir geht's gut.
Ja,
Ja.
nicht zu heiß?
Oh, heiß, ja.
Ja, 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 ja.
Ja, ja.
Ohne
Äh,
Klimaanlage.
heute war es 34 Grad.
Mhm.
Ja,
Und in
das
deinem
war
Studio auch?
in meinem Studio ist besonders.
Ja,
Mein
weil
Studio,
du hast ja alles ganz toll isoliert, ne?
genau, also isoliert bedeutet bei der Klang, akustisch und auch Temperatur. Ja,
Mhm.
also, aber alle diese Energie im Studio kann nicht rausgehen.
Ja.
Rausziehen. Ja, also das ist ziemlich heiß, ja. Also ich
Mhm.
soll das Fenster manchmal öffnen, ja.
Du kannst jederzeit auch ins Englische wechseln, wenn du möchtest. Wo du
Ja,
gerade von deinem Studio erzählt hast, einige kennen vielleicht deine erfolgreiche Serie auf YouTube, How to Build a Studio
ja.
from Scratch, or what was the name of it?
How to build a home studio.
How to Build a Home Studio. Very interesting series, I think 4 parts.
Yes.
And explain how you did the room setup for your studio, right?
Yeah, we started with a completely normal room. I mean, this is the idea, not to show people how to build a professional studio because this is not really something that they would do. It's also very expensive, and they don't have even the room, the right room to do this. You know, you need a big room, and you need to build it from scratch in some angles and all that stuff that most people don't have.
Mhm.
But they can still get some great productions, even from a small home studio,
Yeah.
if they know how to build it. And it's not perfect, but it's really good enough. You know, I can get some really good sound here, and I hear everything very clearly. And yeah, that's why we made this series, so that people just have an idea how to build this, what kind of materials they need, and some principles like the room within a room that you build,
Mhm.
all that stuff. It's very interesting, and I think we did it. Like the video is fun to watch. You know, it's all kinds of parts that we did. I hope I made it fascinating enough, or at least interesting enough, So
I
that
think
people
so. You have lots of
Absolutely.
viewers on those
Yeah,
videos.
yeah.
So how did you know how to build a studio?
Oh, I didn't, but the guy who actually, it's actually a tragic story. So sorry if we open it with that because it just happened. The guy who actually built that with me, and I'm speaking about that, talking about that in the first video from the series, he actually wanted to help me build the room, and in exchange, I wanted to produce the video, you know, to film everything and then to edit it, and he would speak about that. Actually, the series was supposed to be his, and what happened is that 2 days after we finished, the guy was only 25. He ran in the park and just collapsed and died. Yes,
No.
Oh, really?
yes. A
Oh,
25 years old guy. It
how
was some
awful.
heart failure. His name was Shai Ophel. And I dedicated the series, of course, in his memory.
Yeah.
So yeah, we started with a very tragic story, but yeah, that's what really happened, you know. And I was fortunate enough to have another friend helping me with the inner acoustics. So I didn't really know how to build a studio. It was completely their knowledge. I learned a lot from this, and I also teach that, you know, in the series. But yeah, it was theirs, you know. It's Shai's and then Sasha's, the second guy that helped me. Yeah.
Oh man, what an awful story.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was
Yeah.
like really
Poor guy.
surprising. We were all very shocked, you know, because a young person, you know, you don't expect
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Nobody expects
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, but you know, since we met in Berlin, you know, we have been in contact once in a while. I think we met at Jazz Ahead, right? Last year.
We did meet.
Yeah.
I think even twice. I think,
yeah, I
we
think
did-
even twice.
We met last year and the year before too. Yeah.
So we are in contact quite, you know, for a while. Always, you know, trying to find the right spot. And we are really glad, you know, we are doing this now. You know, it's about time, right?
Yes, it's about time finally.
And now I think it's about time to listen to some music that you produce in your studio. Maybe we start with a little video clip or whatever Georg has prepared to get an impression what you are coming up with.
Let's say, should we start with Universe or Astronauts?
Whichever you choose. I mean, I guess Universe.
Let's see. We have a track from your current, you know, latest album. What's the complete title of the track?
So if you choose Universe, the whole title is Somewhere in This Universe, Somebody Hits a Drum, which is also the title track from the album.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Let's hear what this is about.
Thanks.
Okay, that was an impression. Not only audio, it was also a visual impression, right?
Yep. I
Yeah.
mean,
So can you introduce the other guys? One guy we know, we're quite familiar with. This is Marco Minnemann, the drummer. But who are the other two musicians?
so the other two are Matt Paul on keyboards and Roberto Badoglio on bass. And both of them are friends of mine. They live here in Berlin, so it was just natural that we gathered and, you know, played together. We played together even before, but for the album, they were just perfect for me. So I chose them, and they did an amazing job. All of them.
Does Marco also live in Berlin?
No, Marco is in the US.
Right, right.
How
did you meet Marco?
I actually didn't meet him before the album. Only after we met when they were on tour here with the Aristocrats. Not here in Berlin, they were in Hanover. Not Hanover, it was Hamburg. Yeah. And I just went there and went to their show, and that was the first time I actually met Marco physically, like in person. And before then, we just corresponded a lot. I just approached him, and he liked the music. I sent him some demos and some charts, and he liked the music, and we said, "Yeah, let's do it." And it was really great of him because he has his own studio at his place. So drums were recorded there, and also all his video parts, of course, they were recorded there as well. I even sent him a black screen so that he has like the same background as we do, and that's how I could just combine everything together on the video. So yeah, it was quite a process, especially because I had a very, I would say, precise sound image in mind, you know, what I want, also from the drums. But I told that to Marco that I really need to have certain details in, and he was really cool with that. And you know, like other than that, he just gave tons of his talent, you know, his huge talent, and it was some kind of a hybrid combination of both things. And it was really cool to work with him, even though everything went on emails, you know, like he would just send me something, and I would send him a few comments. Okay, let's maybe change here, maybe change there, you know. And sometimes it was a larger list, but it would narrow down very quickly because knew more or less what I'm looking for, and you know, after a couple of times, it was just there.
But
So
when
it was
you
really cool to work with him.
when you approached him, you had already, you know, your arrangements and everything in mind, right?
Yeah. I sent him already actual demos with the
Okay.
drums inside and everything and charts. So I don't really write like everything for a rhythm section. I still leave it with a lot of freedom to do their thing because they will always think more advanced and more rich. You know, it will be a richer kind of part if they have most of the time the free hand, you know, to do their thing. But there were certain parts that I wanted in, and that's when I just wrote it for the drums and for the bass. So it was kind of a combination between the two.
So when you start a project like this, do you start with a clear concept? Do you have the idea universe in your head, or do you just pull out some recordings that you did in the past from your desk and you say, okay, this is a nice idea, this is a nice idea, let's work on it, or is it focused directly on the concept?
In my case, it's quite focused, I would say. Like I didn't really have much music before I started to write for the album, but I had a strong concept or something, you know, which is very, it was a clear vision, you know. So I actually usually have the titles of the tunes before I even have the music. So somewhere in this universe, somebody hits a drum was just the title that I had for years before I even started working on the album. And then I just sat down, like after a whole day that I was just here in the studio playing or working on some projects. So a lot of the musical flow was already there, and I just sat down to record the tune, and I started to improvise, but it sounded so close to what you're actually hearing, except of course the solo or whatever. You know, there were other things that were added later on, but the main thing was already there, almost completely identical to what you're hearing. So I just started to sing it, and it just came out, and it was great. You know, I was actually surprising myself a little bit. Then I said, you know, I should really keep that kind of process with the other tunes. So basically, each tune that I first had the title, and then I said, okay, what do I have to say musically about that title? And I just started to record, and I just, you know, I just take my guitar and the mic because I like to sing. I think it gives it a very concise melody. So if you notice in the album, a lot of the melodies are relatively simple, especially relative to other prog or fusion albums. Even though the arrangements are complicated and the production is complicated and all that stuff, it always has this backbone, and I really like that. I think it makes it work, you know. So I actually sang it into the mic and played it, and sometimes it would be a few parts, but largely it would be the song as it is, you know. It would be just like a song, and it gave it a very clear line to follow. So whatever I do after that, it works because the basic line works. So I really recommend people to try to work like that because it promises or has some guarantee that whatever you do, it won't fall. You know, it won't fall out. It will be, it will stick to the concept. So yeah, that's
Pretty
how
cool.
But that's what I saw. You know, it's not only the song concept; it's the full concept of the presentation, right? You know, with all these costumes and the big video production, animations, and if for the guys following us, please, you should really see the full clips, which is the full video animation, whatever, production.
What
It's
about
amazing.
if we check out a little bit more right now?
Yeah, I have chosen something. I will show it now, and then Yuval, you have to explain the story behind this. So let's start it. Okay, game over. So that was part of the song actually, and the clip. And when I saw that, because I'm coming from that computer age where I was playing with stuff like that. I think that I thought that was the universe of the future. So what happened, that you integrated that, not only the graphics, also the concept into your song?
Right. So a lot of the visuals I kind of have even before writing the music, kind of like with the title. It's like you're going to speak about something in front of audience. You kind of should know what you're going to talk about, right? So you should have maybe not every word, but you should have the theme and the key points already ready. So that was one of the key points. After I finished writing the main theme, I said, okay, I should break this into something completely different, because if it keeps like the main theme, it would start to be either boring or maybe even pretentious or kind of too heavy. So I should really use a contrast here. And the best contrast I could think of is, okay, now we had this huge thematic thing, like a film kind of music played by real players. It's not an orchestra, not just an orchestra. All right, let's break this. Let's make something which is much more intimate, still in the theme, but much more intimate. So that's how I think of things. And what could it be? Okay, let's make a video game music played by real people. And that was the idea. And
Cool.
and it really reminds me of that. So I said, okay, we should very quickly. It just came to me that I said, okay, we should make a video game video for that, And it took me forever to make, but yeah, eventually it worked. Like that. We're just basically being chased like Pac-Mans.
Okay.
What was first?
You seem to be like an all-round talent, right? You're a carpenter, you're a composer, you're a music producer, you're a video
game designer,
you're a graphic animation artist. But basically, what your instrument is the guitar. Is that right?
That's correct. I mean, that's where it all starts and ends. I mean, I do all these things because I really have or at least in this project, I had very precise vision. And I said, I really have to have everything the way I see it. It's not because other people are not talented or anything like that. Of course not. I love working with other people when they really have something to say. And of course, the other guys, the players, they have a lot to say and they added immensely to the music. But in all the context of visuals or the vision itself and all that stuff, I was kind of trying to get it myself. because I really wanted this game to look like that. You know, oh yeah, this thing is moving here and that thing is looking like this prize or whatever. It's maybe it's over detailed, over produced in the sense that I could have someone else do it just as well or even maybe better. But I'm very happy that I did that. Took me forever because I'm not a video professional, but I'm still happy that I did it. I do think that next time I will find someone else that shares the kind of vision I have and translate it into visuals so that I don't have to do it myself. But we'll see.
But
Yeah,
as you,
but guitar is, yeah, the guitar is my instrument.
but that's I think we should
Here,
have correct. And let's have a look at the solo from that song, yeah, because I think we only saw the beginning. I have a clip prepared from the same song, a guitar solo, so that everybody understand your passion.
thanks.
Yeah, tapping. Lots of tapping. I think in the before the recording here, we were talking about, you know, if you have something to give away, like a signed pick or something, and then you said, no, I actually don't use picks. How did that happen? How did you, you know, kind of evolve in these techniques?
Well, it's a long story because I always liked tapping. It kind of attracted me to try and evolve this kind of technique. There are not too many guitarists that use it exclusively, and I also use picks sometimes. But in the case of tapping, I guess we have some guitarists watching. You probably know that you have to tap with both hands on the fretboard. So in the case that I want to use, you know, some kind of picking, I actually pick with the index finger, like I have a pick, but not really. And it still works. It's a different sound, but it still works. So I can just switch quickly between those things. So all the longer lines, or if I want more dynamics, because tapping is not really rich on dynamics, then I use this kind of, I would call it finger picking. That's basically what it is. And then I can quickly switch back to tapping. So that's how I do it. But I would say, yeah, most of the stuff is really with tapping because it's a technique that you can really achieve a lot with. And especially stuff that you really would find it very hard to achieve with a pick, with any kind of picking, even sweep picking or alternate or economy, it doesn't matter. It's just all kinds of lines that are, or arpeggios that are really hard to do. I mean, maybe some guitarists can do it because they really work on that. For me, it was just some kind of a natural evolution. And at some point I said, okay, I have to make this more established. So I actually made myself some exercises for tapping, all kinds of arpeggios, all kinds of finger combinations. And if anyone is interested, I have all that on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook page, so you can check it out. Just look at the guitar sessions, and many of them are actually about that, like all those basic exercises, at least, that you can do in order to develop your own technique. And sometimes people actually approach me and say, hey, I checked out your videos and I've been working on them for a year or so, and it's really complimenting because, you know, I'm really feeling happy that people are actually digging at that and taking it to their own directions. It's cool. Yeah.
When I watch you tapping, it looks for me different to what, let's say, Eddie Van Halen did in the 80s. You know, he was like, had the pick, and then he would come with, I don't know if you can see it, with one or two fingers here and to help the other hand. But you playing like like a Chapman stick or something, you know, like
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why I call it two-handed tapping, because yeah, tapping, you know, like most guitarists like Van Halen or many of those guitarists
Yeah.
from the 80s, you know, even Kirk Hammett, you know, all these guys, they were basically tapping with one finger. They use this finger.
Yeah, yeah, the pick here. So
Yeah,
what?
here, exactly. So what can you do, right?
Yeah,
You can
that's,
use one finger, which is sort of available. So they used it, but in a limited way, you know. And I said, okay, we should, you know, I should take it to the limit or to whatever I want to achieve, because I heard some lines that I couldn't really achieve with this kind of hybrid pick and one finger. I really needed all of them. Um, and it's really cool because you get some results which are fantastic, you know, like that are really hard. Like I said, like they're really hard to achieve with just picking. And on the other hand, it should always stay musical. There should always be a musical reason to do this. So if you don't really hear those lines, then maybe you don't need this. But
right.
it's still worth checking out, because you might come up with stuff while you are working on that technique. And I actually wrote the transcriptions book for the album. I happen to have it here. So yeah, this is basically, you know.
Can you open it up? Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Wow.
show us the guitar part.
That, you know, like I don't know if you can really see well, but
This is his tab with tabs.
yeah.
Wow.
So basically, there are tabs, of course, because
Yeah.
those tabs are very different than what you might expect from a normal technique. I mean, many guitarists who are experienced, they don't really need tabs, because if they have the technique already and they know where to play, position, and all that stuff, okay, they can kind of figure it out from the notes. But in this case, because it's a different technique, and I guess it's new to many guitarists, I really made sure that everything is exactly the way I played it in the album. And you know, like with the double position, I call it the double position because one hand, let's show it maybe on the fretboard. I hope you can see. So one hand, for example, is on, let's say, fret. Sorry that I'm not connected, so I cannot really play, but let's say it starts from fret number 7, right? And the right hand starts from fret number 12, right? So you have a position, but you skip the strings. Anyway, all those details are in my videos, and they're like up there on YouTube. So anyone who's interested can check it out. And I'm guessing we also have non-guitarists watching that. So maybe we shouldn't bore them too much. But yeah, I mean, it's just a way to create different lines. It's not obligatory or anything. It's just a way to make different kind of playing on the guitar. And for me, it really works well. So I just evolved it, you know, and I still do.
But when you started playing guitar, you started in the classical way, and then was there an influence or something that triggered your way into tapping?
Yeah, you know, like it's interesting because I've been playing guitar for many years, like ever since I was a young kid. So I started, of course, just with metal. Like I grew up with metal and rock. And guitarists, yeah, like the Slayer guys, you know, Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman, and Kirk Hammett. They were like my first favorite guitarists. And then I was actually never. I mean, I am a huge Yngwie Malmsteen fan, for example, but he only came later for me for some reason. I always was more attracted to the less melodic kind of stuff, you know, like to the more dissonant stuff. So Slayer was perfect, you know, and then I discovered death metal and black metal and all these things. So yeah, I was less on the Iron Maiden side, let's say. You know, I love Metallica, yeah, but less Megadeth, less Iron Maiden, more Pantera, Sepultura, all these guys, and then Dayside, I think if they say, right? Or, you know, Cannibal Corpse, and then all the black metal stuff from Norway, whatever. And then I discovered Cynic and Meshuggah. That changed my world completely.
What is this called? What is this?
Meshuggah.
Cynic?
The band?
Meshuggah.
Meshuggah. Yeah.
You don't know them? Okay, so like you really check them out. It's heavy, yeah. Like it's more like on the, I don't know, like think Pantera on steroids, but really with polyrhythms and all that stuff. It's amazing. fucking amazing, and they're one of my favorite bands until today.
Mhm.
So that influenced me. So that's how I started. Like, if you call it classical, I don't know. It's not classical music that I started with. That's
No,
for sure.
maybe a classical
think-
way of playing
Yeah,
guitar.
the standard way. Yeah, the standard way for a guitarist,
Yes.
electric guitarist to start. And then after I discovered them, because of their relation to fusion, to jazz, then I really took up jazz and I started to learn jazz. Basically, right now or until today, like I'm in my technique, I would say, or my thinking is still jazzy. I incorporate it always, and I'm thinking also in matters of a classical musician. I was never classically trained, but I'm thinking, in the sense of orchestration and all this big stuff that's going on a lot in the album. But all the solos, eventually they are jazzy in their approach. They're improvised. It's always kind of a combination of pipes. Yeah. So
Cheers.
Sorry.
yeah. So yeah, it's always like kind of fusion between things,
Yeah, sounds very interesting. I thought you were more like that's probably what Georg's impression was also, a classical trained guitar player, because of your fast technique abilities.
Actually, I was a bit reminded when I saw your techniques, especially in the solos, to that guy. What was his name? Stanley Jordan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I think he's also different from like you explained, the heavy, Van Halen style of tapping. He's also doing this kind of more, like you do, just on the fretboard with all fingers. But of course, he's more jazzy, but
Yeah, he's amazing because he could play, Bach chorales or whatever, like a pianist would, just on the fretboard. I'm not there yet. Maybe one day I will actually take it seriously and really train or practice that. But yeah, I never actually.
I need to look it up. I don't know. I think I only know the stuff he made in the 80s. I'm not sure if he still exists and doing albums. I need to look that up.
He exists. Yeah, he still exists. But yeah, and he's still active, and he's really, it's such a special thing, especially because everything he plays, well, essentially he's a jazz player, right? Like, he's playing jazz, and he can improvise like that too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And his tone is a clean tone. He doesn't use distortion, which is even more amazing because it's tapping. And guitarists know that playing tapping and get some really full sound from that.
Yeah.
He has this kind of combination. I mean, 90% of it at least is in the hands, and that's what makes it amazing. And also probably some gear that fits that, some guitar and pickups and all that, and maybe probably some compression. All these things are happening there, but I'm 100% sure that the vast majority of it is in the hands. Just the technique and how it plays.
You're probably right.
I really recommend people to check him out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people, I'm sure lots of people who are watching us want to check out your music now.
Yeah, I have another clip.
Where's the album available? Or the book, or both?
Everything's on my Bandcamp, so it's just my name, YUVAL RON, .bandcamp.com. So, I mean,
also on your website.
Also on the website, yeah. Also on my, there is also on my website, YUVALRON.com.
Yeah.
And yeah, so everything is there, like all my discography, especially on Bandcamp, but also on my website.
Cool.
Yeah, they can just check it out. Also, one of the videos is on Bandcamp. And everything else is on either my YouTube channel or Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah.
I was asking because I checked you out on Spotify, and I found YUVAL RON, but it was another YUVAL RON.
Yeah. So there are two musicians. By the way, I'm not the first one who's sharing names with another famous musician. I mean, there are two Avishai Coins, for example. You probably know them.
Yeah.
Yes, there's the bass player and there is the trumpet player. Yeah, also Hebrew names. So, yeah, and there are many actually. I cannot really think right now.
Yeah,
but
Bill Evans.
Bill Evans.
Bill Evans.
Right. Bill Evans.
Ralph Schmitz. We have another Ralph Schmitz, right?
Yeah.
Really? A musician?
No, it's a comedian.
No, he's like a comedian.
Oh, okay. So that's easier. Yeah, but yeah, it's really funny because sometimes people who are not really extremely well, not very familiar with either me or him, they approach me with emails that are meant to him and vice versa. I even got some money for him lately,
Yeah.
and I forwarded it to him, but it was very funny, you know, like, you know, dude, check your email that you send on PayPal, you know, like, yeah.
Cool.
But I think we had the same kind of similar story with Fischbacher, right? You know, because there's these two guys with the
Walter
name
and
Fischbacher, the German guitar player and the other keyboard player, and they didn't know each other, and they were just sharing the name, and then because of that, they bumped into each other and did a record, right? So it's
And now that they're recording together.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
The
nice.
project together, Fischbacher.
Yeah.
But
Like the double impact kind
yeah,
of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
I
So-
have another excerpt from another song.
Oh yeah, cool.
So and then let's have a look, and then after that you tell us a bit about the astronauts, the costumes, and how all this happened. I really want to know that.
All right.
Let's have a what is the name of the song? Is Astronauts, right?
I believe in astronauts.
I believe in astronauts. Okay, let's have a look.
I was never big
Okay,
into
we are back. We're
Oh.
back.
Oh, okay. I thought
No,
then
we're
we had a
back.
black hole in the middle of the video.
We have been, fallen in the black hole of your video.
Okay. I just asked Yuval if he is a science fiction fan.
Right.
Or
So,
how did he come up with the idea?
so yeah, I was never actually big into science fiction. I mean, of other creations. I mean, I did watch all the Star Trek stuff and stuff like that, but I was never like a Trekkie or Star Wars fan, like not big one anyway. I like it, but it's not like I'm watching everything and know every line by heart or whatever. But I have a lot to say about space or science fiction or whatever. It was also the case in my former project, my former band, Residents of the Future. And I decided to take it even one step further. So yeah, I mean, the whole concept was always, like I said, I have the concept, I have the titles, I have the visuals in my mind, and then I start writing the music. It's kind of like writing for film or for a play, what's called thematic music or programmatic music, that you have a theme that either you or someone else already decided for you, and you're actually making music for it. So it's more like an impressionistic kind of thing. So I like it because it allows me to be very concise on the contents, and every note, even in the solos, even if it's improvised, I ask myself, is it really belonging there? Is it really serving the big purpose, the big goal?
Yeah.
And that's how it becomes very concise, and I like that. At least in this case, I totally dig also improvised music, which is not originating from anywhere, just self-serving. I think many of the even classical pieces, that they don't really have names, Sonata number 2, or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's probably a very expressionistic thing in the sense that it's, they did get names, many of those pieces like the Chopin etudes and all these, but I think they came later. When he wrote them, he didn't really have names for them, and I don't even think he
No.
gave names for them.
No,
It just-
they didn't.
Well, the etudes are exercises, but yeah, they are beautiful, but they are exercises. But you know, even the sonatas by Beethoven or the symphonies and all
Yeah,
this.
the sonatas by Beethoven, sorry, the Moonshine Sonata, it's called, right?
Right, but did he
But when
give?
you really analyze the melody that he wrote and the harmonies, it's more like a funeral music.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
some historians, how do you call this?
Yeah,
Historiker?
okay, yeah.
Georg, help me. Historiker in
yeah, I don't
English.
know.
They found out that Beethoven wasn't thinking about moonshine romantic stuff, and so he was thinking about death.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's how
Yeah.
the sonata came up. But later on, it was
Makes
used as a romantic track, also okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure even he gave the name for it. I don't know. I'm not that much of an expert, but I do know, for example, with the Etudes by Chopin and many of the other sonatas, like the Pathetic Sonata, I think that it was actually given later. You know, that the name was given later to something which already existed. Yeah, and all the Bach invention, you know, with numbers, everything is with
All
numbers.
numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all numbers. And why is that? Because that music is kind of self-serving. I think the concept of writing at least instrumental music to a program, maybe it's a little bit newer, not modern probably, but it's newer in the sense that, you know, you write music and you give it names before you even write it, or you write it to some concept that someone else thought for you, or you think about yourself, but you kind of dictate that into your own music. It's a different thing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it even
But
allowed me, you know, to create even the graphic. I didn't do the painting, but you know, I had when I worked with the people who did that, I already had a very strong vision of what I want. The music was already ready, but you know, okay, I want the astronauts and I want the drums. Somebody hits a drum, you know, like all that stuff, and also behind, you know, like all right, let's do a satellite with a drum. All that stuff is happening
but
because of the concept that was there already.
what happened when you approached the guys that played with you, Marco, you know, and the other guys, and you came up, you know, hey, we have to do the video, and you have to wear these costumes, you know, what was the response?
All right, so it's actually funny because, well, they were very cool with that. Of course, they were willing to cooperate. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. But I kind of told them that in advance. You know, like that I want to do that, so I gave them a fair warning, and they were really cool with that, and I think they enjoyed to do that. Marco, he already did a spacesuit project before.
I think you did something with Paul Gilbert, right?
And by the way, I didn't really know about that. I knew that he worked with Paul Gilbert, but I never actually watched those videos, so I didn't know that. And then I realized, hey, they did it, but they did it in the studio, you know, like, and I said, I never actually thought to do it like in a studio surrounding. I wanted to do this in space. So I said, okay, I'm sending you, I actually sent him.
The costume, huh?
Yeah, I sent him the costume, and I sent him a black curtain that he still has because it's also an acoustic thing. So so we had this like behind him, behind the drums. So that was like our background, and I also have one here. So basically, we could match the backgrounds, and that's how I could actually, you know, just pick him, pick ourselves, like me and the rest of the guys. We did it here, the other guys, and I just could take each of us and just put ourselves inside some other environment, like either space or this little space pod in universe video. Yeah, so that's how it happened. And then there was a lot of post-production involved because you really have, first of all, it has to kind of make sense. I'm not saying that I did it 100% realistic, not at all, but it still had to kind of make as much sense as I can with that. And it had to match with the colors and the light and all these things that I had no idea about before I did that. I just had a nice camera, some couple of lights, and Marco did his part, and that's how we just combined it. He actually filmed on his iPhone, you know, and it still looks nice. It still looks great.
How long did it take to finish it?
With
the video and everything?
Like, if you mean the video itself?
No, the recording and then editing and animations and.
Okay, so yeah, end to end, I would say 4 years.
4 years?
4 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's, you know, because you know, from the first time that I actually sat down to write, It's not like I do it 100% full time. I did invest a lot of time in it, but yeah, I had to do other things, you know, to sustain myself in the meantime and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it started with me just writing the material, and then I recorded demos because, you know, I really had, like I said, I really had to give the guys a very clear idea of what I want. So I had to really record the demos with some parts like for drums and for bass and the keyboards and program all the sounds. You know, we didn't really speak about synths, but I really love synths. Um, so I don't really have hardware synths, but I do have Omnisphere. So I used Omnisphere. I used some sample libraries and all that stuff. So I had to, you know, program all those sounds. And I did that even as a pre-production, even before we recorded. And that was actually very helpful. And then I sent those demos plus charts to Marco and to Matt and to Roberto. And with Marco, like I said, we worked on emails, but he had a very good idea of what I'm looking for because of those demos, because they contain the drum parts, you know, programmed. But and then, you know, like that. So that took, I think, about half a year. Matt and Roberto were here, or I came to Matt's place, you know, and we just worked on his parts. And I felt like a director in a movie, you know, like, yeah, but it was cool. I mean, I think they liked also to work like that. It was, I guess, different for them because basically they're jazz players. And for, you know, usually with jazz players, you don't work like that. You just let them improvise whatever they want, because the themes are kind of narrow. Okay, you give them the theme and they learn that, but the rest is more or less improvised. And here it was much more arranged, much more produced. So yeah, but still, like, I think we got something very positive going. It was a very good flow. And I think the result speaks for itself. I'm happy with it. Yeah. So all that took about half a year. And then there was a period of mixing. I did mix some stuff before that album, but that was like taking my mix skills to another level because it was so demanding. I never actually mixed anything like that before. There were so many tracks and there were so many things to think about, you know, in the post-production process, that it really took me another, I would say another half a year at least, more even, you know, like 9 months to mix it to my liking. And then I worked with Maor Applebaum. He's a mastering engineer, an amazing one. So we worked a couple, you know, like that was short, you know, like, but we did do back and forth about that because we really wanted to get the mastering fitting the album. And then there was all the other things, you know, making the videos. Every video took me a few months. And between that, I released the album. I did a crowdfunding campaign for it. So it wasn't like one process from the beginning to the end. There were a few things in between, like that have to do more with the marketing or, you know, like being a label, all that stuff. So yeah.
But if
you're doing also your own label.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gab.
Yeah, no problem.
I have no choice because so that kind of yeah, no, that kind of music, there are quite a few labels, but most of them are really working with a very I would say closed list of artists, which are mainly the big names in the genre. Yeah. So they cannot, it's not that they don't want to, I really understand them. They cannot take new names because creating a name in 2020, building somebody and investing so much time and money on creating that, it's a huge investment that for most of them doesn't really make sense. I totally get that. Right. I know because I see it for myself. You know, I do my own social media and I do my own marketing and all that stuff. Of course, I have some distributors. Like I sold many copies in Japan, and in Europe, I have like Nova MD and others, like just distributing the CD and promoting it. And I do my own promotion, of course, as well. So we did a media campaign. That's why it took 4 years. When I say 4 years, it's gross, you know, until today, more or less. But yeah, I mean, it was quite a project, I have to say. I learned tons.
Yeah, I think I
believe that.
That's something I just want to ask you, because you know we are doing kind of the same. We are doing all stuff by ourselves. You know, we're doing video editing and, you know, mixing and all this stuff. Did you also experience that, you know, you're growing with that? If you think 4 years you know back, you grow with your skills on mixing and stuff like that. But then it's sometimes, at least my experience, it's hard to find where it's good enough. You will go forever and ever and mixing and mixing and mixing. How do you find an end? You know, because you think, no, it's not good enough. And so when you look back, you think, oh, I should have been, you know, be ready earlier because of my own, you know, learning curve, right? Did you experience that?
Yes, and actually, I think it's a very good question. It's a great question, actually, because many people ask me that, you know, when is it good enough?
Yeah.
And it goes back to the same point that we were talking about during this session. If you have a very clear idea of what you want, then it's also going to the mix, then it's also going to the playing, it's also going everywhere. If you know, you really have to imagine the canvas in its final condition, more or less. Nobody can do it in 100% kind of way, but if you do it in a 90% kind of way, then you really reduce a lot of, is it good enough? Oh, is it, you know, oh no, I don't like that, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to throw it away. All that stuff happens, but much less if you really know what you want. It doesn't mean that you know what you're doing. You can learn a lot from the product, but if you have a target,
I need to remember that. Yeah, it's a good.
Yeah, it's like this is what most people don't distinguish between. Knowing what you're doing is one thing, and knowing what you want is another thing, and it's sometimes the gap between them is huge. But at least if you know what you want, then all right, it doesn't work. Let's try another way. Let's try this. Let's try that until you get there. But once you're there, you know that it's there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the important thing. That's the important thing, in my opinion. So yeah, that's why I really recommend people, you know, sit with yourself and really picture in your mind whatever you're doing, whatever you want to do. If you want to write, then create the sketch first, you know. Then you can imagine later on the colors, or I don't know, the light, or whatever is it that you want to do.
Yeah.
If you're mixed, that, you know, ask yourself, you know, okay, do I want the mix to be wide? Do I want the mix to be narrow? And why? Why do you want to do this? I mean, is there a reason to be wide or narrow? If you're about space, then you're probably going to have a lot of stuff wide and huge reverbs and all that stuff, because it's just obvious. Maybe you want to do a less obvious thing, but that's also a good artistic reason. But the thing is that you always have to have a good reason to do stuff. If you do that, then you have a good target, you have a good idea of why you're doing things, then you're happy. Then you're happy with what you're doing once you reach it. Mm-hmm. Even if you had no idea
and you have
how to get there.
You have a basis and you have your vision that you want to achieve. So that's...
Yeah, it's an artistic process that maybe it's not mandatory. Maybe some other artists have other ways to work. I mean, and of course, I mean, there are millions of ways to work, right? But for this kind of project that you really, you know, want to achieve something very concrete, you have to work like that, or otherwise you'll get a great result, but not what you intended.
Yeah, so, you will never finish.
Or it will never finish. I know so many people that cannot finish stuff, not because they're not good. They're actually, some of them are excellent, and their perfectionism is becoming counterproductive.
Yeah, that's exactly. Bad. Yeah, that's a thin line, you know.
Yeah, I actually had a mailing list about it, like a newsletter that I wrote about that a few months ago. You know, like that they always say, you know, perfect is the enemy of good. I don't agree. I think there is such a thing as perfect, and the important point is to make it attainable, to make it so clear that even if you don't know how to get there, at least you know what it is. Yeah. So, some people have an idea, oh, it's not good enough, but what is good enough? They don't know.
Yeah,
and that's where
you cannot describe.
Yeah, that's where they get stuck, and they even become destructive to themselves because they throw away so many great pieces. You know who was like this, by the way?
Alan Holdsworth.
Yeah. Alan Holdsworth.
He suffered from that. That's right.
He suffered from perfectionism, but he suffered from perfectionism. And I said, you know, he's like, you know, he was for many years like a huge mentor for me in so many levels, not just in this lick or that chord, you know, like really shown to me and to many people that in music, everything is possible if you really want it. Yeah, and he achieved a lot of that stuff. But I do know that there are basically lost treasures, tons of them, like that he would just erase on purpose.
Yeah,
And
just
that
after
no one,
recording. Ah, not good enough.
yeah, yeah,
But
he would record his stuff, and I know that people who worked with him, you know, played with him, they said it was brilliant, just like his albums and whatever, and he would just not be very happy with it, so he would just erase it. So there is no vault, not like with Zappa, for example. There is
Yeah.
no vault.
But do you have a tip how you can achieve a good judgment for yourself? How can you know, because usually people play something, they record something, and they listen to it, and then they listen to it, and they have something in their mind from another artist or something. Oh, he did it better. He did it better. I want to get there and stuff. But how to have a clear judgment about what you just recorded, what you just did, or what your next target is? What that is
Yeah,
difficult. You're really clear in your head. I
oh yeah,
assume.
I mean, you know, it's a really good question, and it's a tough one because you really have to you really have to be true with yourself, very honest and very true with yourself. You cannot compare yourself to other artists. It's one of the most horrible things you can do. It doesn't mean that you cannot be influenced or inspired by other people. Everybody is. Yeah, even the most original. I'm sure that even Bach was inspired by other composers that preceded him. You know, Bach is considered to be the father of Western music. Yeah, and he invented incredible stuff that no one knows how it was like that. It wasn't like that before. It was kind of like that, you know, with plastering and other.
Yeah, there
But,
was
but
more singing and stuff.
you know, yeah, there were chorales and all this. But
Mm.
you know, he made such a huge advancement in music, and everybody's like, "What? How the hell did he do that? How did he come up with that?" Or you can say that about Miles Davis. You can say that about Chick Corea. You can say that about Alan Holdsworth, Pat. You know, all these guys, they are geniuses. But what I really think happens with them is that they are really true with themselves.
Mm.
Like at least if you know the ones that I know either personally or by reading their biographies, you know that they are really honest with themselves. They were always honest with themselves. So if they practice some technique, they probably ask themselves like 100 times a day, is that what I really want to do? And if that is really what I want to do, I have to stick with that all the way until it's perfect. But I have an idea what a perfect thing is. In that sense, it's a very specific thing. Yeah, it's that very specific exercise or that specific chord progression or whatever. But I think you know they had a really strong vision. That's the one thing that every one of them has in common.
Mm.
So I don't think they were very busy asking themselves, "Oh, is that good enough in some other people's standards?" And by the way, most of those recordings, you know, like let's let's talk about productions from the 70s or 80s. You know, they are golden albums. We still enjoy them today. But hey, the you know the standards have been raised. Everything is much tighter today, or whatever. So how can we still enjoy them? Because it's not about being perfect in an absolute manner. It's just being complete with yourself. That's all it takes. It's a lot. Yeah, it's very demanding, but it's all it takes to just be a good artist.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what makes them great artists.
Yeah, and when you say it, it sounds really simple and clear. But when you are a
To get to
musician, you know,
that
with lots
point,
of stuff in your head, then it's difficult to break it down for yourself like this. You know, to have your achievement, you have your idea, then you develop it a little bit, and then you say, okay, that's my melody, and I go on from this, and it's sometimes really hard. Then you hear on the radio something else. Oh wow, he did it with that sound, or
yeah,
you know, you compare yourself to another production, and it's really dangerous and
It's
difficult.
dangerous, it's destructive. I really don't think you should compare yourself with anyone because
Mm.
not because you know like it's one thing to learn something from someone else. That's perfectly okay. Yeah, especially when you're young and you're just learning. Of course, nobody can expect you to, you know, start by being a great musician, very original. Nobody is. Nobody starts like that.
Yeah,
So okay, but at some point you have to ask yourself, is it really me? Is that really me?
yeah,
So what if I
that
pick
is important, you know.
what if I pick something cool in the radio? I cannot let that distract me from what I really am. And if I really want to learn that, that's fine, but that's like a different time. that's like learning time. It's not creativity time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not yet a part of me. It's just a cool idea that I picked up from some player or whatever. You know, it's
Maybe being yourself is one of the most important talents an artist should have, no
oh
matter
yeah.
what art he's doing, you know.
Yeah.
You know, um, I really recommend people to check out a book and a CD, like or audio, by Kenny Werner, the pianist.
Yeah.
Do you know it? It's called Effortless Mastery.
Effortless mastery. I have it
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So you know that book really opened up something which is basically not even musical. It's just something which is really as for you as a person. If you want to be great at what you're doing, then you can really use that book because he speaks a lot, of course, about his own process and how does he recommend other people to go through it, and he also gives concrete exercises like meditation. And it's amazing. This thing is amazing. So I used to do that, and I do some yoga, and you might be surprised, but I really do think that me being vegan and an animal liberation activist is also a part of that, in the sense that before I became vegan and an animal liberation activist, I, I wasn't very sure of myself in many ways. You know, I was kind of like, okay, what is that going to be, and how is it going to sound like to other people, and all that stuff. Once I became that, it taught me that you can really be in opposition. You know, being vegan nowadays it's easier, but 10 years ago, and it's still opposition, right? And being vegan and being especially an animal liberation activist, you know, advocating for animal liberation, animal rights, you're basically, you know, many people are not agreeing with you on your stance, and you really have to be strong in order to keep that idea and argue with whatever comes to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of stuff, and it's also social pressure sometimes against certain people, not against me so much because I happen to be just surrounded with great people who are also, most of them are vegan and family which is supportive and all that stuff. So it wasn't very hard for me in that sense, but still, you know, I know many people who are facing a lot of social challenges just because they choose a different path. So it teaches you to be courageous about what you're doing and not give so much damn about what other people think, in the sense that that you let it affect you. You know, okay, that's their opinion, that's my opinion, and when it comes to moral standards, I actually expect that from anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for myself, you know, I have to be, this is mine, this is me, you know. And I think in a way it got into my music as well. You know, I stopped asking myself, do I sound like that or sound like that, you know, or what is somebody is going to say about whatever. I don't care
Yeah,
about
but
things anymore.
you
Not
know,
so much.
but I still believe this is, if you can think like this, then you are an artist probably, because look at those older artists that we admire now, who were very poor during their period of life. They were not socially recognized, financially disastrous, but they kept doing what they were doing, and they were maybe 50 or 100 years too early, you know, to
Oh,
be.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bach was discovered 100 years after he died,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
widely discovered. I mean, he wrote music for his own church,
Yeah.
and he lived, you know, lived in a few places, in Brandenburg and others. But I don't think I don't think he wasn't very known at his time. He
Mhm.
was making a living from the patrons and everything, of course,
Sure.
like everybody did, but at that time. But his works were not very well known. Who discovered him? Mendelssohn Bartholdy, like
Yeah.
about 100 years later, you know. And
Yeah.
that was the time that his music became canonic and became influential of other composers and all that stuff. So yeah, that's like Bach was a great example of this. I think only in the 20th century it really became, because of media and technology, it really became possible for certain artists to become known, really known in their lifetime, and really become not just make a living, really become rich, you know,
Yeah.
from that. But that's a modern phenomena, and we are actually seeing a decline of that in the last 20 or so years because of the new technology. And you know, it's harder for most artists to become really well known regardless of their talent. So we are living in a very different time now than, you know, the 20th century. But yeah, I mean, people shouldn't expect that. I mean, if it happens, it's great, but they shouldn't really expect that.
So, Yuval, that was very interesting. What are your next projects? Do you have a new idea?
I do. So
You're not
first
allowed
of
to
all,
tell us, or what?
some of them I am. So, yeah, no, I mean, musically, it's still kind of melting in my pot. But it's going to be, in a way, continuing this line of the album of Somewhere in This Universe. Somebody hits a drum, sorry. In the sense that it's still probably going to be a big production, and take me forever.
Another
but,
4 or 5 years?
I hope less, because I did learn something. So maybe it will not be as, like a lot of that time that I spent was actually a learning curve, huge one.
Yeah.
Like everything that has to do with the studio, basically I learned that in social media and all that. But anyway, so I'm thinking not to have a real drummer, but rather to program, but not drums. Like it's not, I don't like it when it's programmed drums that sound like real drums, because it's kind of missing the point in my opinion. But I do want to program some electronic percussion that is more like kind of like soundscape, like tapestry, or more like effects than anything else. And I do want to use more orchestra libraries. So in that sense, like it's more like a MIDI production, but I'm going to have real players, like live players in it. Of course, I'm going to play live, and I'm going to have some people that I haven't even talked to yet, and that's like the secret part. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they would be happy if they have the time, especially now that everybody is available.
Exactly, waiting
Yeah.
for stuff to do, right?
Yeah, and I have also music-related projects which are not musical. So one of them is Wrong Notes, which is basically a collaboration of artists from, let's call it progressive music. It doesn't have to be progressive rock or fusion or progressive metal. It could be all those things, anything which is having the prog spirit to it. So basically, we are a group of artists, and you should, anyone who's watching and interested, you should check out Wrong Notes on Facebook and on Instagram. And basically, we are basically a channel. So every few days, there's a new video from one of us, and together we are promoting that channel. So we are getting to a lot of new people that we might not have been able to do this just by ourselves, because it costs a lot of money and it's an effort. So it's a really cool collaboration. That's one thing. And the other thing is a platform which we are going to launch. Yeah, I didn't speak about that, but I'm also a software engineer, just like you guys, or I think at least Guillaume, right?
Yeah, I tried
yeah,
to.
Yeah, so I'm also an entrepreneur. And we are going to launch soon a platform that is going to help a lot of musicians make money from their recorded music, which doesn't really happen in the streaming era. And now with the COVID-19 times, it's really hard for everyone. Even musicians who are successful in normal times are having very difficult times now because they cannot perform live. So basically, it's a platform that fans can just come in and support their favorite artists on a regular basis and directly, even with $1 a month. But it's still a lot, It's called Musomine. Don't look it up yet because it's not live yet, but in a few months, I guess 2 months or so, we are going to have a beta, and then we will invite everyone. And I hope we can have another show about my new project, and we can invite
Good plan.
Yeah.
Always welcome, Yuval. Always
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you.
In our show. I think that was an amazing, more than an hour, the longest live
Exactly.
stream we ever did.
But it was very good.
But it was
It
amazing,
was
really
yeah,
interesting, and we learned a lot about you. I'm really inspired by what you said about the basic artistry things, and judging about your achievements in production and stuff like this. Really, really interesting, and we also got some nice comments here in our chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
People are also
Denise
amazed.
Brooks wrote, also she's a singer that I worked with in the past. She wrote, as an artist, I understand that being yourself and expressing your craft and in your life in your own way is incredibly important. Great topic, great show.
It is.
So, and there are lots of positive reactions and comments here. Thanks,
If
Yuval.
anyone has questions about the music, they can write there and I'll respond in a few hours or so, or tomorrow. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we have your website, your Bandcamp, and your Facebook site.
Yeah, I mean, this is the CD, and of course, it's also on digital commercial time. Yeah. So yeah, you can just grab a copy from my Bandcamp page. It's YUVAL RON, one word, yuvalron.bandcamp.com. I'd love to ship you a copy if you want. There's also a T-shirt and all that stuff. So. Oh, and guitarist, remember.
Yeah, and the book, I was just about to say that, there's a lot of cool stuff that you have, on top of it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
If you want to know the Earls and stuff that Yuval just was talking about, go check out our website.
Yeah.
This episode will be on there in the next days, and there will be show notes and everything will be listed there, where you can get the book, the CDs, the coffee mugs, whatever.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, Ralph, Georg, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It was amazing. Thanks for your time. Great
Thank
show.
you.
And we speak next time with your new project.
Yeah, or see each other somewhere.
Of course, in Berlin or somewhere else.
Somewhere in this universe.
I was just getting ready to say this. Great, Yuval. Have a good night in Berlin and see you soon.
Oh, before we forget, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Most important thing.
Signing out.
Yeah, signing out.
Ready for takeoff.
Take off. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Live long and prosper.
Outstanding.